Everyone, and welcome back to the Cocoa Nomad channel, where I talk about financial and location independence, as well as remote work and travel. And this is another one in a series about financial independence. And this is the next installment of the income stream reports. I have been trying to diversify my income so that on my journey to financial independence, I have more options. And so in this particular one, this is for August of this year, and I'm really excited to share my progress. And so let's go ahead and dive in. So starting with the goals that I set, I think like I mentioned, the overall arching goal is to diversify my income streams. I'm looking for ways to sort of make sure that just in case something happens, it's sort of like risk mitigation, which I talk about quite a bit, and want to make sure that if something goes wrong, I'm not upset in terms of my financial status, my financial well-being. I can make sure that I have some other things in place so that I can continue to make a living. I can continue to keep going. I can continue to follow my dreams and my goals. And then this particular period, one of the goals is to learn more about investing. I will link in the show notes or the description a link to one of my first investment report, where I dive into more details about some of the things that I'm doing specifically with investing, and you can see some of the results there. And then the last one, of course, is to eliminate consumer debt. I mentioned in some videos way back in one of my what I'm working on updates that I purchased a lot of computing equipment. And this was an upgrade year for me. So I got a new watch, new phone, new laptop, all those types of things. And it was pretty pricey, actually. Fortunately, I was able to get that for no interest for a while, but I still want to, even though I'm not accumulating or accruing any interest, I want to knock that debt down as quickly as I can. I am balancing that out with investing because it is no interest and I can get a better return investing than 0%. That would be completely different if I did have interest on the credit card. I would absolutely be attacking that first and paying that off. So just one of those things that if you're in a similar boat, it's kind of hard to beat with the market returns as high as what a lot of credit cards are, like even if it's like 11 to 12% or higher, depending on what you have. So let's look at these income streams that I currently have. Now, another link that I'll drop in the description is a link to my 7 income streams for 2022. And one of the things I want to make clear here is that all of these income streams are things that I have planned and I'm looking to build in 2022. I'm just doing some of the work now to get prepared so that I can start generating income via those streams. So at this point, some of those streams are just absolutely zero. They're just not there yet. Some oscillate because I have done some work, but I'm not putting in continual effort right now for those streams. I try to focus on a few things at a time because there's just only so many hours in the day. And I wanted to target initially the ones that had sort of like the biggest payoff and the biggest bang for the buck. So if you remember in the previous income stream report, the biggest one was my consulting, because I was a freelancer for most of the time, but I had taken a full-time job, returned to my job that I worked years ago, returned to the company. And I'm really excited to do that, but it sort of changed some things. Whereas that was my main source of income, it has switched. And if we look at these streams here, you can see that now my full-time employment has become the biggest stream of income at 79.6%, which is almost 80%. And then the remaining almost 20% or 20% is from that consulting. So overall, I've seen an overall increase in my monthly income, but the ratios have changed a bit. And then if you look inside of these other smaller categories, they're very, very tiny. And that's media, which is my podcast, YouTube, those types of things. I'm not monetized on YouTube, so there's no money coming there, but I did make a little bit of money on the podcast, but that was accumulated over pretty much all the time that I've had the podcast, and it's been monetized, which hasn't been as long as the podcast, which I've had for a couple of years. I want to say it's probably like the last 7 or 8 months. So that's a very small amount. And then the investment income is very small as well. I've started to accumulate some shares in dividend paying stocks. And right now, those dividends are not very large in comparison to some of these other streams. In terms of the courses and digital products, The courses, I don't have any finished yet. I'm still working on laying out courses and the types of things that I am going to be offering. Some of them may be around remote work and travel, but most of them are around software development, which is my main field. And actually, software development is what I do in the full-time employment and on the consulting. So just kind of being clear, although consulting sometimes will include some remote work, travel type consulting, but that comes in very, very rarely. So it doesn't normally make up a huge portion. So we can see here that those are the streams. And then if we look at it by type, we can see that I've broken income down into 3 types: active, scalable, and passive. Now you'll hear a lot of people on the internet and a lot of sources talk about passive income. And I'm really particular about that category, which is why I added the scalable in addition to active. So when I say active, I mean, like my full-time job, like my consulting, I'm literally trading a unit of time for work for money. So it's an hour or a salaried, which is just a salary job, but I still have to work so many hours. And so it's a direct exchange. Scalable are the things where I can put in some work, and it may take a lot of upfront work, but over time, the amount that I earn can scale, can go higher than the initial inputs. But also there's usually some additional maintenance work. It's just not a lot. Say for instance, for courses, I'm answering questions and doing customer support. For my apps, I'm also doing support and maybe adding features, but it's not a direct one-to-one correlation. Those things can really outrise the amount of work that I'm putting in over time. And then passive, for me, is truly things like investment income, where I'm putting money into something and the money is going off and making the money. So the dividends, I'm not doing anything. I pick a stock, I pick an ETF, I pick a fund, I put the money in, and I'm getting the appreciation and I'm getting the dividends or premiums or however the money comes in by that investment. I don't count the capital appreciation, quite frankly, as income. That's just value that would show up on my net worth, my balance sheet. So you can see here, 98.8% is active income, and then very, very tiny percentages are in that scalable and passive category, just like we saw based on stream. And I just like to look at this 2 different ways. So it kind of gives me an idea of how my work my input is broken out in terms of what I'm getting in terms of income coming back to me. So when I put that work in, I can see that there's a lot of active income. So let's talk about that. And what that means for me right now is that full-time job income is new, and it's now the largest stream this month, and which I expected. I knew I was not working tons of hours on the consulting project. You know, it's not that many hours compared, so it's equivalent to like a part-time job. And then the new job, of course, is full-time. So now I've got the full-time and the part-time. And then in the time in between, I work on some of these other streams of income, like making YouTube videos like I am now, the podcast, writing blog posts, designing and working on upcoming courses, and the apps that I have. So you can see also the biggest takeaway is that I'm overly reliant on these active income streams. It's just too much of this one-for-one trade-off. So I'm putting in the work. I know it's going to take some time. I'm patient. I'm not in a hurry. Remember, I'm not even looking at these streams mainly until 2022. And I'm trying to put that work in to start growing those streams now so they can start to pay dividends, pardon the pun, in the future. And then the last takeaway for this period is that these other streams are tiny, but it's a start. You got to start somewhere. And I would encourage anyone who's doing something similar, no matter which category, how you break these things down into types or streams, that remember that you're taking your time, you're putting in effort, and nothing happens overnight. If someone prompts you overnight success, beware, because usually that's a scam. It takes time. So overall, I'm pretty satisfied. The job is great. Really happy to be back, getting into the flow of things, and that's really cool. And I am enjoying the steady stream of income from the job. It takes off a lot of pressure in a lot of ways, and it's starting to give me that diversification. Even though it's active, still a little diversified. So I've got the full-time and the consulting gig, and the smaller streams, I can work on building those over time. So that means what's next? What am I going to be working on in this upcoming period? Well, the first is I've set some target levels to achieve for my investment income. I like to be able to set goals and track them, track my progress and see how I'm doing. So I know, what I need to adjust and see how I'm progressing. So my first investment income level is just to make $100 in a month in investment income. Now, what that means is I'm going to have to pour more money into these investments to build up the dividends and to grow and get into some of these other types of investments and see how they do. And then the second thing is, again, in this long path, is to continue making content on YouTube. That's my basic focus. Make more videos, continue to put out content, continue to grow the channel, continue to provide value for people who are watching and listening. As said, I really appreciate you watching. Go ahead and click the like button. And if you want to subscribe and stay updated, go ahead and click the subscribe button and then ring that notification bell, and you'll be notified when more of these videos are coming out. So as we see what's coming next, I'm really excited. I'm taking this one step at a time. I'm continuing to learn, continue to grow. And so, so far, so good. No complaints. Despite the overwhelming amount of active income, it's still income. I'm happy to have it. It's good to have a job. It's good to have client. It's great. So no complaints. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section below. If you think this would help anyone else, just as an example to follow, as a guide or something just useful and interesting to see, please share it. Helps a lot, helps the channel, and I truly, truly appreciate it. With that said, thanks a lot for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.